Hey everyone, we are live with a Frisch perspective in the Layman Apologist, and you saw in the ticker there that we're going to be discussing current events and issues, and now you can see we also have a bonus today. We have a bonus host, I guess you could say, or just panelist. We don't have
Guest.
a name for this. Guest.
Yet.
Yet.
Yeah, well, yeah, we don't even call this anything, but I don't know. It leaves it intriguing.
Hey, the audience had homework since last week, so
That's oh yeah, that's right. They're going to give us names in the comments today. More names.
Okay.
Lord willing.
We enjoy seeing them. There were some really interesting ones. And yeah, so we've had our guest here on before, Pastor Dwayne Green, up in Canada. I was just complaining actually about Canada's wildfire smoke. And go ahead, Pastor Dwayne.
Yeah.
Say what you need to say.
You notice Tim was like, "Oh, Canadian wildfire smoke," but I saw on a map that there was some smoke coming north of the border from the U.S. in certain parts of Ontario. So take that. So
Were they inhabited parts?
actually,
That makes a difference.
Everybody lives on the border. Okay, that's the thing. Is you go like 100 kilometers north of the border, there's like nobody. Okay, but listen. So
I want to get your take on this idea that it was actually not the Bee posted this, but it's an air filter that's just like a wall for the border.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, if
Okay.
President Trump wants to build the filter wall, I think it'll filter more air coming into Canada than Canadian.
And it'll keep
air
more
coming
Americans
into the
out,
USA.
right?
Yeah, that's right. Because you guys are just rushing. You guys are just rushing to illegally enter Canada, right?
I did go to Canada recently. I didn't legally and I did not illegally enter. I got to say that very carefully.
Yes, you do.
Jeez.
The CIA, the Canadian Intelligence Agency, is going to be knocking at your door, being like, "How did you get in here, Tim Frisch from America?"
Oh
Illegally.
man. Legally. Illegally. Legally. Yeah. All right. Well, we see you in the comments. Good to see you all there. Tony, the first one in the comments. Good evening from England, he says. And Seely with her greeting, beautiful weirdos. Good to see you, Seely. Orthodox Philip, awesome to have you here. You kind of notice we have a rotation of denominations, and we are planning to have Orthodox Philip back on here once he gets his copy of the New Rome Press Bible. But Pastor Dwayne is pastor of a Pentecostal church,
A castle.
and we usually will have Presbyterians on pretty regularly, along with our resident Presbyterian there over in Ireland, and then I try to get some Baptists on too to make sure that I'm not always outnumbered.
that never really works.
Funny.
Presbyterians automatically outnumber just by their presence. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm just thinking about all the times where you've actually outnumbered me. They've been few and far between compared to how many we've had on my side.
You're right. We gotta correct. We've got to make a correction there.
Are there any like Baptists where you're at, Layman? Or are they
Oh,
like
yeah.
all Presbyterian and Catholic?
No. Like I'll not dox myself, but in my little town, there's 4 Presbyterians, 2 Roman Catholic churches, 1 Methodist, and 1 very IFB KJV only church.
Okay, so there's 4 Presbyterian people
Churches.
or 4 Presbyterian churches. Okay.
Churches.
Yeah. So,
Not just 4 of us.
oops, sorry. I just as I clicked the comment went up. Sorry about that, Seeley. But Tony said, "What about us Wesleyans?" So, yeah, you're right, Tony. I really do need to get some Methodists on here, some Wesleyans. But it's possible that you could at least consider some of the guests we've had on more in that general direction. Now, I don't know if that's fair to say, but like for you, Pastor Dwayne, would your soteriology be a little bit more Wesleyan than like mine? And
oh yeah, for sure. So as Pentecostals, typically, now, I mean, there's like some Pentecostals kind of go Calvinist, but for the most part, we're like Arminian. So
would you
that's the
even
easy
like
question.
call yourself like? Would you be like someone who would read Wesleyan theologians and stuff like that?
Yeah, I would say so. I haven't read a whole lot of Wesleyan stuff, but some of the stuff that I know and aware of Wesley, we would typically see that as kind of good. Like for example, the second blessing, right? Or you know that the experience of the baptism of the Holy Spirit comes on as a second blessing, and it empowers you for ministry and stuff like that. So we would kind of hold to something along those lines. And again, we talk about questions of like, can you lose your salvation? We would say, as Pentecostals, not so much that you lose it, but that you can forfeit it. I think that's a better way to say it. And of course, that's looking into the issues surrounding Hebrews as a whole, not just, a few chapters here, but as a whole.
Man, this is making me want to ask you more questions about
it.
Sure. That's not the reason we had him on, but maybe we can talk about it a little bit. And by the way, just to quickly mention it, Orthodox Philip said he did get the Bible in the mail yesterday, and he's going to be ready to come on soon. He should be ready to come on soon. So
you mean to tell me he got the Bible yesterday and he hasn't filmed a video and uploaded it? Chalk.
So
I know.
So
Chalk and Philip.
Orthodox Philip got a Bible. I got a Bible. What about you, Layman? Did you get a Bible? Did
tomorrow,
Tim send you a Bible?
Oh, tomorrow I am getting a Bible that has been rebound specifically for me from Hope Family Bindery. So yes.
Oh, very cool.
Okay. Yay! You're gonna bring that on maybe next week to show it off a little bit.
Yeah, well, but I'll also be doing an unboxing and a review video, which I have not done a review video in years. But he's also sent me some other stuff in there, which I'm not allowed to say just yet. So.
Okay. Hey, by the way, kind of a tie-in here.
Ooh,
that's my Lion and Lamb. That's Canadian, right there.
Very nice. Did you pick it up when you came up?
That's an NKJV too.
Oh, that's even better. Even better.
Yeah. For all of you NKJV lovers, this is a 1985 printing, I think.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow!
So really nice. But we're actually going to be talking about the Gideon's printing.
That's right.
Of the
and
ESV.
The Gideon.
I actually I have one more, so I could technically send you one.
That's hilarious.
It was so funny when you were saying on your live stream. By the way, Pastor Dwayne is on here to talk about this because he just did a deep dive into this edition that we're going to be talking about from the Gideons. And I encourage you to go because he really focuses on that for the full hour and a half. So you could really hear all his thoughts and get all the details. We're going to be more doing like general discussion and kind of response to what he talked about. But yeah, I forget what I was saying other than getting one of these into Layman's hand as well.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it is. You were saying, I think on that stream that these are really rare. And I'm like, I had like 10 of them at one time.
I have not been able to find them at all. Maybe this is like an American or Canadian thing.
I knew a Gideon. So I had a ministry I was doing at the time in downtown, and so he got me several of them to use for that, and that's why I had quite a few.
Yeah, well, I have a friend who pastors a church up on Manitoulin Island, so I went up there last summer. And it was one of his congregants like came up and had this big box and it had Bibles in it. I looked at it and they were like Gideon Bibles. So I was like, oh, I wonder if they've got the ESV one. And I asked him, Pastor G, can I take one? And he just like pulled one out and said, here you go. So I didn't have time to look at it. So I brought it home, right? You have to actually take the ferry across to the island. Otherwise it's like a 10-hour drive around. So I took the ferry home, got home and looked at it. And I was like, oh, it's an NASB. This is not the ESV Bible that I've been looking for. So
Was it a Gideon NASB?
It was a Gideon NASB. Yeah.
Okay.
So
well,
it's upstairs
see, if
somewhere,
it was like a 95, they kind of do have some of those Textus Receptus readings in the text, so it's not as much of a change.
Yeah. That's why I say, like, if you're going to go critical text, the NASB 95 is probably the one to do, because you still have all of those readings. Even though they put square brackets, I just say, like, just pretend like the square bracket characters are not there and just read it, and you'll be better off.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, you are definitely I guess you always say like a Byzantine text advocate.
Yeah.
Is more how you put it. But it's essentially the Textus Receptus that you would lean toward over the critical text. Like you're that's one reason you're an NKJV user, is because it uses the Textus Receptus.
Yeah,
in
and
the
then
New
it's got
Testament.
majority text footnotes in there, right?
And
Because
majority text footnotes.
Yeah, there are places in the Textus Receptus that departs from the Byzantine text. So the kind of fancy word, the label that we put on ourselves is Byzantine priority. And so what that means is that the Byzantine text is prior to all of the other the other text types. Now, of course, we don't really talk about text types anymore because things are changing all the time in text criticism. So now they kind of refer to them as textual clusters. And the reason for that is because everybody thought that text types were what they call recensional, using all these words that nobody knows what they mean. But recensional just means that somebody came along and pulled a whole bunch of stuff, did a bunch of work, and then standardized a text. So they thought that all of the different text types were standardized at some point in the history and then propagated from there. But generally now, I don't think most text critics are holding to this recensional idea. So they're called textual clusters now.
Yeah, thank you for.
Sorry.
No, that's good. That's good. That's part of what we want is getting those
Technical details.
Technical details, yes, exactly, and some of those words that are good to know the definitions of them. Yep, very good. Yeah, and we'll talk a little more. Let me start off with a post here for us to talk about that is not really related to this. Although I will say that the picture used for this is the ESV, but this is a post from Tim Wildsmith. So let me pull it up here, and we can. This is kind of our icebreaker.
Okay.
As we're going to be talking about the ESV, but he actually is asking, let's settle this: single column Bibles or double column Bibles. This is a safe space. Explain your answer. Top Bible, ESV Veritas. Bottom Bible, ESV Alpha. And so as you can see here, you've got the single column on the top, double column on the bottom. Let us know in the comments too which you prefer to use. Can I take a guess at which one you like, Pastor Dwayne?
Yeah, guess.
Double.
No, you guessed wrong. You guessed wrong. So,
I already knew what his was, so.
Yeah. That's how I know you don't watch my channel, Tim. That's how I know. I'm disappointed.
Yeah. Well, maybe I just missed all the videos where you said that and watched all the rest.
That's right. So the images that you see, I do not like either of those. And I'll tell you why. Okay. So I'm very specific. So I don't really like the double column format, although that one there is a little more bearable. But the top single column reference there that you're looking at, I think the column is too wide. There's too many words per line. So if you could shrink the column, this is why I like the Nelson Premier one and the wide margin one, is because the column is a lot more narrow. And so I just prefer that. When I find when the column is too like wide, I keep losing the spot when I transition my eyes to the next line. I end up either going to the line under it or going to the same line and rereading the line and be like, "What, didn't I read this already?" So yeah, when you make it narrower, those problems go away. So, but if it's too narrow, it's really annoying. Like the Quintel, the PSQ. The personal, what is it called? The
personal size Quintel.
Yeah, it's too narrow and it bothers me having to like shift down to lines so often. So I'm very
really
picky.
doing the Goldilocks thing.
Yeah,
there.
I'm totally
This
picky.
one's too wide. This one's too narrow.
That's right. I'm very picky with how I read my paper Bibles.
It needs to have exactly 13 words per line.
12 to 14 is the number.
14.
12 to 14.
Okay, I was close.
Yeah. You were close.
I was right in the middle.
That's pretty good. You took the average. That's good.
I got one thing right. All right, and then Layman, of course, likes double column.
Yep.
Good. I'm 1 for 2. And you'll never guess me. I mean, it's pretty typical of me. If you know me, you'll know what my answer is.
Yeah, double.
It's going to be like kind of an in between. You know how I am.
So like 1.5 columns.
Exactly. I like one column on one side of the book and 2 on the other. No, I like either. It depends on the use. It depends on the page layout.
Okay.
Well, Tony,
But you know what? If I had to lean one way, because I do just, I've grown up all my life with old school Bibles. Something about that double column, like I showed you earlier with the 1985 version. And that explains, Dwayne, why you don't necessarily care about having an older NKJV, because they're usually double column. So you probably like the newer printings.
Yeah, I do. Actually, the typesetting in Bibles has come like a long way since I was like a baby Christian back in the like late 90s.
Look at this. Colton, sorry it blocks you off there. Let me see if I can get you back.
See, he knows. Colton knows. Right on. So we got Team Colton here.
Now wait a second. Then we've got Nichols. Double column all day long.
Tim.
Now, are you going to also bring up some other areas of disagreement? Because
I have some disagreements with Tim Nichols. I have, and so we're gonna get into it.
And it starts with this double column versus single column.
One is you are double column. That is right out. And 2, you seem to think that new Bible translations, the future of English Bible translations, is going to include all of the Textus Receptus or type or Byzantine readings, but in square brackets. Now, this is the heart of our disagreement. So Tim thinks that they're going to go into the body of the text, but I think they are still going to remain in the footnotes. That's what I'm thinking. So we should take this moment, we'll clip it out and we'll keep it. And then when the first English Bible translation comes out from the UBS 6 or NA29, then I'll be able to say, look, Tim, I was right.
Are you going to do an I told you so video? Is that what you're saying?
Definitely.
If you're wrong, then Nichols has every right to do an I told you so video.
No risk, no reward.
There you go. Wow. You guys should put something on the line. One of you has to send the other a Bible, whoever's wrong.
Yeah, I could send him my Gideon ESV.
You can get a Gideon ESV. It's not TR enough for you, is it?
The stakes are too low there, Tim. Come on. The loser has to read from the Passion for 1 year. 1 year.
Yeah, I am not willing to put my spiritual health on the line for this one.
I was gonna say I'm not gonna inflict that upon them.
I did a deep dive on the Passion just recently. I did. I wanted to see what their the textual choices were in it. And I got a little bit of blowback, and I think some people misunderstood what I was doing. But it's okay. It's okay.
Well, you'll now start Tim on his new favorite topic.
I actually have a post about the Passion that I've thought about showing today. I am considering it.
Okay.
But
do it.
Yeah. So just wanted to mention there's another double column fan here. Anyone else want to chime in? Wow, I mean Nichols, he's pretty serious about this. They're actually heretics.
You should start a poll on
Hey,
YouTube.
How about that Frisch guy there?
Alan Frisch.
Alan?
How's it going, Mr. Alan?
Good to see you, brother.
I mean, you probably should pop a poll on the YouTube
chat. A poll on the YouTube channel for single column and double column.
I don't know how to do that.
Let
me try. You guys got to talk, though. You have to talk because I can't multitask.
If you go to your YouTube chat,
I'm working on it.
Okay, you do that. Now we just stare at him.
Should I actually just put both of you on and then that you don't have to look at my face while I'm concentrating?
You staying on screen's not going to do any harm, but okay.
Okay. All right.
Ah, dear. Well, outside of the ESV Gideons, what else are we discussing today?
Well, I'll tell you how
he doesn't
I know.
Because
Oh,
are you asking me? I'm the one who's supposed
no,
to be
I
multitasking.
was asking Dwayne. I thought you two had something planned today, and I wasn't in the loop. So
No. I just had him on because of this first topic.
Yeah, because the ESV Gideon edition. But before we get there, while we're waiting for Tim, I will tell you how you know your wife loves you. So my wife drove into town today, and on her way back, she brought me home a Tim Hortons. That's how I know she loves me. Look at that, Tim Hortons. Now it's it's not a regular cup because they're celebrating Camp Day. So Tim Hortons, as a foundation, they send kids away who are underprivileged to go to camp. Actually, I had the chance to do that when I was a kid. I went to Kananaskis, Alberta, and we rock climbed and did a whole bunch of crazy stuff. It was quite the experience. But anyway, besides that, she brought me home a coffee from Tim Hortons. So that's how I know my wife loves me.
Well, Red Headliner says, just noticed Dwayne's coffee matches his shirt. I mean, not quite, but it's getting there.
Almost, yeah. We could probably get an AI filter to make it a little darker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There you go.
All right, guys. Can I show you my poll?
All right, let's see the poll.
Let's see if it worked. Like if this is what you were talking about. It's not, I don't know. I probably should have a picture on there like Wildsmith did, because right now it looks very plain. But let me get it up here. So go to YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, maybe you could just pop over there quickly and put a vote in. Which Bible format do you prefer, single column or double column? Was it?
Oh, he made a post.
Yeah.
No. You can do it in the chat.
In the live chat.
So if you go to the actual live stream, you can.
So should I take this down now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Don't go there.
That's so funny.
Oh, you want me to go to the live chat?
Yeah, go
yeah,
video.
So when you go into the live chat.
Okay, let me
keep screen sharing, and we'll be able to talk you through it, because all we're seeing is going to be your live chat anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So you
screen
can see this.
We'll be able to
hey,
this
look,
is going to be very, very confusing. We're looking at ourselves.
It's Tim's bank account. Look at take his bank account number. Yeah, look, I can see a social security
Start a
number.
Poll.
Right. Do you
there
see
you
that
go.
little?
There you go. Just
add option.
Oh, look at the inception happening.
Nice.
What do we do?
Okay, so you just type in your question.
Bible format do you prefer?
No, I think you can change the text in the yes or no to be like
okay.
Yeah, you can.
Single column, double column. Is that it?
There you go.
And then start the poll.
Look at that.
Now, if you stare at the center of the screen for like 3 minutes, you will.
I got the first vote
crazy.
in. Look at that. 100% single column.
Perception.
Not anymore.
I like this is a good comment here. Perception.
Nice.
That's
nice.
good. All right. This is usually we keep it pretty civil in our this could start a real battle here.
Maybe.
I doubt it.
So far it's split.
Oh, it'll change over the course of.
And I haven't voted. I might be the deciding vote.
Oh, look at that.
And you know me, I could go either way. So
Hope Family Bindery knows the answer.
it's the only correct answer. Is
all I
according
want to say
there
is
we go.
I'm glad my Bible's arriving tomorrow after I seen that result.
This is brutal to watch. Are you talking about what the question that we're asking?
No, I think it's watching you try to figure out how to get full.
Okay. Hey, I just successfully posted 2 polls. I think I did well. And that was under pressure of being live.
Yeah. Now you know for the future.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I'm never on the live stream while we're on the live stream. That's why. So I didn't see that.
Well, before, unless you're
Oh
done
my
with your,
goodness. Maybe this is, if double column was good enough for the apostles, then it's good enough.
Well, what about like triple or quadruple column?
I was gonna say, weren't
Like,
they using like
yeah.
4 columns?
Or like
well,
if you
quadruple
that was
column.
just the scribes.
If you have a scroll, I mean, that's just column after column after column.
But what are the scrolls usually like? Are they divided at all into columns?
I mean, it would.
I feel like it is more than one column, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just column after column because you roll it up, right? You roll it up, and it's just a long piece of paper with columns of text.
Okay. Okay, now I'm getting passive-aggressive comments from Nichols. Bless your heart, Frisch. And I mean that in the most southernest sense possible. Yeah, I know what you mean. And bless your heart, too. Now I'm going to have to vote opposite of Nichols if he's going to be like this.
Well, before you two get stuck into your main topic, maybe you should perhaps show your new merch, Tim.
Oh, thank you for the reminder.
Tim's got merch.
Tim's got merch.
And I want to give a big shout out to Layman for updating this, so we have another option. You can still get the original
this
with
Wycliffe.
I think people are going to really like this. So let me see if I can get the bundle up here.
So while Tim's doing that, for those of you that are regulars, you'll already know this. Tim's going off on a mission trip in August? October. I always say August for some reason. October. So any money made from buying this will go to Tim.
Yeah, and you know, October sounds far, but we of course have this. A lot of this money is going toward building materials for a church building that we're actually helping to construct in Ecuador. And so we've got a team of 9 of us going down there October 3rd through 17th, and we're putting a roof on. It's quite expensive to get down there and purchase those materials. So these are just little things that are really helping a lot to go toward that. And yeah, what you can see here is Layman did a really good design.
I was going to say, Tim, while this is the bundle, people can get all the stuff in one big price if they wanted. You might be better going into the individual products because that way you can actually click in and show people the design.
I will. I wanted first just, you know, people to, well, maybe get them to buy the bundle. I mean, that would be really good, right? But no, you don't have to buy the bundle, but you can buy them all together and get a bit of a discount. And I also wanted you to see what all the products are. So you have a mug, you have a sticker, you have the sweatshirt, T-shirt, and a hat. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'll go in here now and go to some of the more specific ones.
And if they sell well, I can add different bits of merch.
Yeah, I think if I go back,
I
really like this mug a lot. Look at that. It's got the verse.
I still have to add the "Do Ye Manly" to it if you want that. But
if you wait a little bit, we are going to add "Do Ye Manly" to the top here. But I mean, it looks great.
You can also get it in green.
Yeah, I saw that.
There, just click the green.
Yeah, there we go. So there's the green. That looks awesome too. And then you can also get them in 11 ounce or 15 ounce.
Trust me, now I use mine as a pen holder, but you want the 15 ounce to get all your fingers in the handle.
I use the 11 ounce.
Do you?
Really?
No, I'm saying, do you? Like, I don't know.
I know that I'm copying you. Like, you're incredulous that my hands could possibly be that small. Well, yes. Let me see here.
The hat looks good, I do have to say.
The hat looks great. Now, we can't put "Do Ye Manly" on the hat because the lettering is too intricate for
the embroidery.
For how they produce these. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you get Wycliffe, so if you're wearing your shirt with it, it still goes with the theme. Okay. Then you've got the sticker. Are the stickers going to have "Do Ye Manly"?
Size-wise, I don't think you can fit that on. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, the hoodies, they look great. So buy yours today. you get a really good quality hoodie, and it's going to be cold before you know it. Or if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's already cold. And again, it has the verse in the back that this quote is from. Walk ye, stand ye in the faith, do ye manly, and be ye comforted in the Lord.
Nice.
So which readings do you think Pastor Dwayne Wycliffe was going with when it comes to the New Testament text?
This is probably Latin.
Yeah, he's
this
just
would have been
translating
Latin
Latin.
text.
But in terms of what would it align with the most of Bibles that we have?
Well, if it helps, in his first version, it did not say walkie; it said weki.
Let's see. 1 Corinthians.
Yeah, well, that's probably because of like just
the old letter,
the old lettering in Old English.
Well, the Latin text was more aligned with the Western text. So we go back into the whole text type discussion. And the
That's
Latin
what I was
text
veering it back to.
Yeah, like it was.
This is going somewhere.
Yeah, it was kind of known for being a more expanded text with more content in it. So, yeah, if he's going from Latin, it's probably what's going on.
Sorry, I'm just this red headliner is cracking me up. We need do ye manly on a dainty teacup, just for irony's sake.
Don't think they sell those.
Come on, Layman.
I can put it on an apron if you want.
I'm not sure. I guess for like barbecue cookouts, right?
Maybe
that could work.
Maybe. I mean, I could put it on a phone case.
Yeah, I'm getting affirmations in the comments that this idea is really good. I think the teacup thing needs to happen. How can you guys not have teacups in where you live? Like everything's tea over there.
Well, fourth wall or not over here.
It's
so
American.
if you want fourth wall to get in a product, you're gonna have to go and message fourth wall.
It's American, isn't it?
Well, they've got factories all over the world, but I'm fairly sure they're a US based company.
That's okay. I mean, in all fairness, I do drink coffee and not tea typically, so typical American. I'm sorry, Pastor Dwayne. I am sorry.
No.
I got distracted. You were saying about it aligning with the Latin, Wycliffe's translation, and then what were you saying about how that applies?
I mean, it applies in the sense that like all of our English Bibles today, our New Testaments that we have in English, we don't translate from the Latin for those. So we just use.
No, but wasn't
Greek
the
text.
Latin based on, because Jerome was translating from.
Yeah, so
languages.
Jerome was translating from Greek and Hebrew. And what's like going back into like Old Testament. So again, I don't do a whole lot of Old Testament stuff, but what's interesting with Jerome is he was one of the first of the early church fathers to translate from Hebrew into Latin.
Right.
Because nobody really knew Hebrew. Hebrew was just kind of like this, there's testimonies where people have gone off to try to learn Hebrew, and they go to the Jews in order to learn Hebrew in the first couple centuries of the church. But yeah, he translated the Old Testament into Latin. And then when we talk about this whole recension idea, Jerome was essentially a recension. He collected all of the Latin translations that were floating around. There were a bunch of independent Latin translations. And so he just kind of got tired of all the like poor quality ones and said, I'm going to do a good job. And so he did a good job, and he pulled everything in, and he had this kind of like standard Latin Bible. And so when you hear about the Vulgate today, it actually stems from Jerome's work back in the day. So
would you say that his translation was more akin to the Passion translation?
Jerome's rolling over in his grave right now, Tim. No, not even close. No. I mean, from what I understand, again, I'm not a Latin guy, but from what I understand, it's generally a quality translation, and it was done really well. So, I mean, there's that.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. So here's a question, and this does relate to our primary edition we're talking about, which is the Gideon International ESV printing that they did. The copyright on this is 2013, so I think it's actually based probably on the ESV 2011. But as Pastor Dwayne talked about in his video, while it does have Textus Receptus readings, and from what we can tell, they just took the footnotes that are in the ESV, where it talks about textual, like the verse that's in the TR, and it takes the footnote and puts it into the biblical text. But what's interesting is when you get to the book of Revelation, it still uses a critical text reading toward the end, talking about the tree of life, whereas the King James and the New King James say the book of life. So, Dwayne, I'd like to hear if you know this. I think you said that the book of life is probably more based on Latin.
Yeah. So here's what happened. So Revelation is like a totally interesting animal as far as text criticism is concerned. So like it's fairly straightforward. And
we should probably put the cookies on the very bottom shelf, because I don't know how many people in this particular stream have heard any of this. What he's talking about here is the Greek text on which to translate the book of Revelation. And so the Greek texts, you have different textual options based on manuscripts from history. Mm-hmm. And so because we're really dealing with copies. So from my understanding, the King James is based on the work that Erasmus did in the 1500s, because he did get access to Greek texts, but he had was it like no revelation in Greek?
I think. So I'm a little. It's a little bit hard to determine, but from what I understand, he didn't have very many manuscripts of Revelation. You got to keep in mind, like, what's going on here is Erasmus is trying to put together like a standard text for the church to use.
For the New Testament.
Yeah, and so what he's doing is he's kind of sorting through all the manuscripts, because all the manuscripts, they have like subtle differences here and there, so you got to kind of sort through it. So Erasmus did that. But in addition to doing the Greek text, he actually had the Latin text beside it. So Erasmus's first edition had Latin and then a Greek column. And so he did that for the entire New Testament. Now, what was cool about this was really the first time in a long time in which the Greek text began to take prominence over the Latin text. And that happened, during the Reformation. So after the Reformation comes, this text of Erasmus had, like the Greek portion of the text of Erasmus, had essentially become the standard. Now, there's a little bit of work, between his edition and something like the King James Bible, but it essentially became the standard. So his work, his text critical prowess, if you want to use that, produced that. Then what happened is in the 1800s, right, with the advent of the modern eclectic method, and Westcott and Hort, everybody knows the name. There's more people involved in it than just what they popularized it. They also did the same thing that Erasmus did, with the exception that they had a number of manuscripts available to them, which they took and used that to produce their edition. So now you've got these sort of two streams of Greek New Testaments. You've got the Textus Receptus.
Westcott and Hort, those two scholars, this is in the late 1800s from what I understand. They were also, you said they had extra manuscripts, but those manuscripts were considered very early manuscripts.
Yeah. So specifically, right, the big ones that we hear about, Codex Vaticanus and Sinaiticus, those are the two big ones that were available to Westcott and Hort. Now, Vaticanus was available to Erasmus, but he did not go with the readings in Vaticanus. But Sinaiticus was discovered shortly before Westcott and Hort did their publication. When he saw that, he went, "Oh, this is the best manuscript ever!" And Tischendorf, "This is the best manuscript ever!" And so he ended up using many of those readings from Codex Sinaiticus to produce his. And the thing about Codex Sinaiticus, this matters, right, is that a lot of the readings were shorter in Codex Sinaiticus than the readings that Erasmus put together from his. So Westcott and Hort produces this Greek New Testament, and now you got two streams. I don't like using the phrase two streams because people mix that up with King James Version argumentation, but it's not that. But you end up essentially with these sort of two ideals, the Textus Receptus on the one hand, and then the Westcott and Hort text, or the critical text, that's what I call it, on the other hand. And so now what we have today is sort of this competition, if you will. Do you use a Textus Receptus-based Bible, or do you use a Westcott and Hort-based Bible, or critical text Bible? Now, it's obviously that's simplified, but that's what we're talking about today, because most of our English Bible translations use something akin to the Westcott and Hort editions. So when you have a New American Standard Bible, or a Christian Standard Bible, or I don't know, Legacy Standard Bible, they choose to use the Greek New Testament based on the principles that Westcott and Hort laid down a century and a half earlier. Again, it's simplified, but we're just breaking it off into two things to make it easy.
Keeping it generalized, yeah.
Yeah. But in the meantime, you've got the Textus Receptus, which has largely been kind of put aside by the text critical community. But you still get some translations from that. So the King James Version, obviously. The New King James Version is based off the Textus Receptus. The modern English version, there's tons to say about that, but we'll just leave it there. And then there is, a couple others, but that's essentially it. So they're kind of in competition. So this is why we get into the discussion surrounding the ESV and why it's so interesting, because the ESV, when it initially came out in 2001, they used the critical editions, but in 2013. I guess there was a meeting had between the Gideon Bible Society and Crossway, and Crossway said, "Okay, we will license the ESV to you, and if you want, you can use the Textus Receptus readings." Now, they didn't say it exactly like that, but they allowed them to make some changes to the body of the ESV to include some of those readings that were omitted from the critical editions. So that's why this one is interesting, because this is the only real modern translation that is kind of, sort of, I say kind of, sort of, based on the Textus Receptus. So that's
in reality, all they were doing, and I think probably the conversation was something like, can we take the verses that you have in the footnotes and put those in the text? Like, the Gideons didn't have to enlist anyone to do any translating. All they were doing is taking the work that the ESV translators had done with their footnotes, which some of them had TR readings, and they took those footnotes and put them in the text. Now, as you were doing your live stream yesterday, Dwayne, you kind of were trying to theorize how they made these choices as to which TR readings to put in the text.
Yeah.
And you thought that your theory was basically that they just, if there was a footnote, that was when they put that in the text, right? Is that basically what you thought?
Yeah, that's kind of,
there was a
right?
TR reading in the footnote, they put it in the text.
Yeah, that was sort of what I was thinking about. Can I share my screen? Can I do that?
You can.
Yes.
Yeah, here, let me go entire screen.
And I have a theory on Acts 15:34 when we get to that. If I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about that, and I have a theory about it.
Yeah.
Let me get this up here. All right, here's Dwayne's screen.
All right, so I am a nerd and I use spreadsheets. so this is a little example of some of the differences between the ESV and the ESV Gideon edition, so the ESV GE. These are typically the verses where there's like a whole verse missing or omitted. When you go to these passages, you typically see that they skip the verse number entirely. Modern translations do, and the ESV, the regular edition, does so, right? And of these 15 or 16 or so verses, I think only the one was not included, and that was Acts 15:34. But you said you had a theory, and I'm going to ask you about that.
I have a theory. Yep.
Now, to show you what I mean, this is Matthew 17:21. This is the prayer and fasting passage, which I've done a lot of work on. But you have the disciples coming to Jesus and saying, "Hey, we couldn't cast out this devil. What's going on?" And he said to them, "Because of your little faith, For truly I say to you, if you have faith like the grain of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will be moved, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. Now, what's interesting, again, if you look at the ESV online, you go from verse 20, there's no 21, down to verse 22. But then there's a footnote here in the ESV. This is the one online. You can go see it yourself. It includes verse 21. This kind never comes out except by prayer and fasting. So that's the textual variant. Most of our modern English Bible translations do not have verse 21 here. The Texas Receptus does, and the Byzantine text does. I saw someone asking about the Byzantine text in my little summary. We can talk about that afterwards. So the Gideon edition has it in there. Without footnotes, without square brackets, without any indication that there's any problem. And of course, makes sense because of the target audience, right? They're not targeting Bible aficionados like us, but just random people who happen to be in a hotel room or school children or something. So what's interesting about it is this phraseology in the footnote is exactly the phraseology that is put into the Gideon Bible. So this made me wonder. It's like, well, maybe that's what they're doing here.
I think so.
Yeah.
And so Acts 15:34 is the exception. It's one of the few places where there's a footnote in the ESV, as you can see here. It in the footnote, it tells you in the ESV, some manuscripts insert verse 34, but it seemed good to Silas to remain there. But that's not in the Gideon Bible.
It's not.
And so that kind of threw you for a loop because you were noticing the pattern, and then all of a sudden that one wasn't in there. So to me, there's actually a pretty easy explanation. They missed it. I'm serious. That's all I think it was. I just think that it was an oversight.
I think you might be right, and the way to determine that would be to get a greater sampling, which might be worth doing just to see.
But the other one is 1 John 5:7 and 8. They don't have the Yohanan comma, but to me that was intentional. That one is it's so contested. It's so contested. Even in conservative circles, it's pretty contested. So I think that's where they made a judgment call and didn't include it. I mean, look at the NKJV. It's trying to be the KJV, but updated, and it includes it, but it puts a footnote. What does the NKJV footnote say there? I can look it up. It's pretty much like, hey, it shouldn't be here.
Meanwhile, I won't look it up.
Yeah. While you're doing that, there actually is not a footnote in the ESV Bible for this passage. So for the Comma Ioannaeum, it just totally ignores it and pretends like it's not even a thing to be worried about or concerned with, which is interesting. The ESV Bible online doesn't have a footnote there. There's no footnote at 1 John 5:7. Yeah.
Oh, and that would be another reason they wouldn't include it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. You're right. That's probably, it just wasn't there, so they didn't put it in. Because again, I don't think they were at liberty. I don't think ESV or Crossway said you can put in a translation. That you have to put in our footnote. That's our translation in the footnotes, so you can put that in, but you can't bring something from outside.
Yeah.
So the NKJV in 1 John 5:7 and 8 says, the NU and the majority texts omit the rest of verse 7 and through on earth of verse 8, a passage found in Greek in only 4 or 5 very late manuscripts. Only 4 or 5. So the NKJV footnotes are pretty much saying it's not original.
Yeah, so just as a note, though, that note is actually outdated because it's closer to 11 now, but they're still very late.
Yeah.
So the earliest that we have in Greek is a 13th century manuscript, which is actually a Greek-Latin diglot. And you can tell, like with the manuscript, it's GA 630 or 680. I can't remember what the number is. But you can tell in the manuscript that they favored the Latin side. So the reason why it has it in the Greek side is because the Latin side was favored. And what's interesting about this specific instance in this 13th century manuscript is it exists in the Greek side in a form that is nowhere else to be found. It uses different prepositions. It uses a different order. It's clearly not the same Comma Ioannaeum that was in the Textus Receptus, 200 years later. And then we find it in manuscripts that were created after the advent of the printing press. So most scholars think that it was likely copied from the Textus Receptus, from Erasmus's work. And then we find about 10 or 11 or so manuscripts where someone just wrote it into the margin. And again, they take on the form of the Textus Receptus. So yeah, it's...
Now, Red Headliner says here, next poll, should the NKJV notes be updated? And I actually think what Pastor Dwayne said there a little bit ago makes a really good case for it. I mean, that's the reality, that our footnotes sometimes, they're not accurate anymore. And it's not because at the time they weren't that they were inaccurate. At the time, that footnote was accurate. But if we have more manuscripts now, the footnote should say that. And I actually am someone who sees the benefits of updating things, including translations themselves, but certainly footnotes.
Yeah, like you got to think like what the footnotes, what the footnotes do in the New King James Version is they reference the majority text. That's the Hodges Farstad edition from the 70s. And they reference the Nestle Aland text, and then there's some Septuagint and Latin Vulgate. But there's been a lot more that's come out. So when the New King James Version was translated, we were at the Nestle Aland 25th or 26th edition. And just to give you a hint of where we're at now, it's at the 29th edition. The UBS 6 came out, and the 29th is coming out very shortly. And then we now have the Byzantine text form in its 2026 edition coming out. Yeah. We also have the Tyndale House Greek New Testament. So, you know, there's a couple more that probably should be added in there.
So,
give Colton a heart attack.
Colton, if you say update and NKJV in the same sentence, it can really cause a bit of a crisis for him. So, no, don't worry, Colton. You know, nobody is really seriously saying that NKJV is going to be updated. I personally think that the NKJV is it's like any other translation. It is gonna slowly become outdated. And I know that's very controversial for people who love it. And we've got one right down there who loves it. Pastor Dwayne.
Leave the
I'll give you an example too, because I know this frustrates people, but I'm gonna make a point at some point here. I won't do it at the moment, but I will say that the footnotes, I think most people agree it would actually be good to update them.
Yeah. Do you still have the ear of Thomas Nelson? We can say to them, hey, update the footnotes in the New King James Version.
I think they've heard that. And
I would help.
I think they would totally entertain that idea. The only problem is marketing, because they would have to figure out what exactly are they going to say without it coming across. They have to be transparent, but if you say it's in any way updated, people are going to flip out and think you've changed the translation.
Well,
what do you say?
The body of the text remains the same.
Now I know, but what do you call it? You have to say something to you can't just change the footnotes without saying it.
Yeah,
so
I say you could call it the NKJV updated edition, but then you get terrible flashbacks to the NRSV updated edition.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
you could do like an NET thing, NET full notes edition. So you could have the NKJV full notes edition.
Just don't use the word updated.
Yeah, full notes edition.
Well, I was going to say there are translations out there that do say for this is not one, but I'm just saying the NKJV. You could clearly just say NKJV with updated notes.
NKJV plus. That's funny. I mean, you could do what the ESV does. You could just call it the ESV. just don't change it. Yeah.
I agree.
So, yeah.
I'm a big fan. I'm an exception among a lot of very conservative people, but I actually think the ESV's approach is overall very good. They always tell everybody when they're changing something, but they do it gradually, because if you wait 25 years and you do it, you get what you get with the NASB, which again has its merits. That's totally a valid approach to do what the NASB does. I'm just saying you end up with two different NASBs and two different markets, two different target audiences almost. Whereas the ESV has maintained their target audience for many years now.
That's true. I mean, if it, like the NASB approach, the 1995 edition to the 2020, made a certain Bible teacher really upset and go out and make his own translation, right? So that's one thing.
I'm just trying to
We're just going to ignore that one.
ESV is one of the most updated texts, which annoys many, but it's also one of the most stable texts with the 2025 still less than 1% different than 2001. Blew my mind. I think that's very honest. That's the reality.
Yeah, I mean, the last update they did was 16 changes. And of course, a couple of them were very controversial, the one in Genesis.
But it wasn't. That's the funny thing. That was going back to the less controversial rendition of those verses. So the 2025 update is as least controversial as they could possibly be, and people were still mad.
Well, there was the John 1:18 one, the John 1:18, where they went with God the only Son.
But it's still saying that the Son is God.
Yeah,
How is that in any way controversial?
Maybe it was more controversial in my circles, right? Because what happens there is it becomes a question of how, like the textual variant there is the only begotten God or the only begotten Son, right? It's one or the other. And so the ESV comes out with what apparently appears to be a sort of amalgam of the two by saying God the only Son. But it wasn't really an amalgam of the two, though, because what happens, there's like a really complicated question of how do we translate monogenes, right? Typically the debate is, well, we should translate it as the only unique Son, or one and only Son, or, the only begotten Son, which I prefer the traditional reading there, only begotten Son. But that's neither here nor there. But what people fail to recognize is there is actually a different way to look at monogenes, because in the early church, they saw monogenes as a title given to the Son. So when you see the ESV translate that as God the only Son, they're taking monogenes and they're translating that as only Son. Yeah. Even though it really... Now, the question, of course, is that...
But we know that in the language, from everything I understand, anytime you're talking about monogenes, it is always referring to your offspring. Like that's kind of inherent in the word. It's a completely valid and we know contextually John is talking about the Son. Mm-hmm. Plus what other manuscripts say probably plays into that too. But at the very least, I think it's a perfectly valid translation. Anyway, that's probably the most controversial thing you could even come up with, and that's not really anything that big of a deal. But I'll just point out what Colton says here. He says the problem with the ESV is they claimed a permanent text edition and then reverse course was a letdown for many who love textability.
That's right.
I do understand that is something that really happened. The thing I will say though is that they reversed course very quickly. They didn't say text, it's a stable text for a decade and then decide. They actually went back on that pretty quickly, and
it was a matter of months.
It wasn't long at all.
So at least they were honest about it. But I hear you, Colton. I know it. I get that. I get the whole. Okay, here's my pushback now. I think I'm ready for this.
Let's hear it.
All right. Okay. So I understand the desire for text stability, and I think the original languages should be stable. Like that's our stability, is the original languages.
Sure.
Our language doesn't have to be stable, and it isn't stable. Our language does change. The example I usually give is something in the New King James. I know not everybody's going to agree with this.
Okay, here we go.
This is going to be hard, but so I'm totally fine with the New King James not being updated, but here's the challenge of that. The point of stability is to say that when I read the Bible, I don't want it to say something different. Here's the problem. If you read the New King James in 1982 and you read a certain word and it had a connotation, and 40, 50 years later that word has a different connotation, you're not actually reading the same word anymore. The same word is on the page, but the way people are hearing it, and I'm not talking about you, actually. I'm not talking about you, because I was around 40 years ago. Actually, I don't know if you guys were. I was.
I couldn't read.
So I'm old enough to know how people talked in 1982. But here's my point. If you had a word that back then everybody understood it very clearly, and now 50 years later, you still understand the word, but your children hear it differently. The word means something different. I would argue that's not stable. I know that's very controversial, but I don't think it's actually as stable as people think. And so here's my case. I'm going to be very unpopular on this opinion. Okay, here it is. It's the word awesome.
Okay.
I know that awesome used to mean awe-inspiring. For young people, I don't hear them say it in the way it should be said. They don't mean it. You can teach them what it means, but my point is that when a young person reads the text, that's not how the New King James translators were looking at the word. They would not. My thought is they wouldn't use that word today. The same translators wouldn't use the word awesome. That's 40 places. And if a Bible changed in 40 places, you'd be like, that's a big change. And my argument is it has changed in 40 places because the word has changed connotation. So that doesn't mean they should update it. I'm just saying that's the challenge of an overly stable text.
I'm holding it in.
But he's fighting.
Go ahead.
Here.
Go ahed.
All right.
Give me all the blowback.
Okay. So, well, no, I'll ask. So how do you think that kids today are using awesome that you didn't use it 40 years ago?
40 years ago, the translators of the NKJV, those men who were older than me, by the way, knew that awesome meant something like awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
Do you use the word awful as awe-inspiring?
No.
But people used to.
They did, yes. But is there
so
an
we
instance?
We could say God is awful.
That sounds awful. But is there an example in the New King James Version where awful is used? Because you're talking about awesome, and then suddenly now we're talking about awful.
It's making the same point, though.
Right.
What I'm saying is that there were people who, when they used awful, meant awe-inspiring or fearsome.
Right.
By the way, the LSB, to kind of prove my point, the LSB did not use awesome. The LSB, which is very conservative, from what I understand, I looked it up, it uses fearsome.
Okay.
Because people don't use awesome in that way generally.
That's an interesting translation. Fearsome is very interesting, yeah.
Yeah. It's because if you look at a tornado coming at you, you're close to it, people, in one sense, it would be perfectly great to say it awesome. Produces a sense of awe and fear.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you said it's awesome, people might hear that as, this is so cool.
Right, right. Yeah, okay. I can see that. Yeah. But I think, too, there's also a healthy distinction to be made between how we use language in a secular context versus how we use it in a religious context. I think there's something to be said about that. So, yeah, I don't know.
You're right. It can be taught. It can be taught. I'm just saying that's an extra step that the original users of the New King James didn't have to make, especially the older people. The older people using the New King James still understood awesome as a very serious word.
Right. Now there's a clip going around, and coming back to the ESV, there's actually a few clips in how they made decisions and stuff. But I think it was maybe Wayne Grudem was talking about the updating of language, and he used the example, the oft quoted end times passage, where there were two grinding at the mill. Now, of course, grinding today has a very different connotation. But is the fact that, and to be honest, I don't hear it anymore, right? That seemed to have been a fad that came and went, right?
Right.
So should we change the way we translate something like grinding at the mill because of a fad? Or, how do we know it's a fad? How much time do we have to give up?
I think we could safely say, now I will say the New King James, because it's 300 and something years newer, it's way better as far as this than the King James. But the King James has even more of those types of things. And the really famous one or one that's very pertinent is where James talks about gay apparel.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think the word gay is a fad. I think that needs to be updated.
Yes. I think you're right too. Yeah. Yeah. Again, like there's a balance to this, right? And the real question, and I think where the disagreement will be for most of us, right, is not so much that language changes and eventually something will have to be updated. That's true of all languages. Like if you don't
just not in your lifetime. That's what I think most people are saying.
That's right.
You can change it, but not in my lifetime.
Over my dead body.
Let a future generation argue about it.
The debate here is at what point, and when you get into these like slow changes, that line becomes very fuzzy.
It does. So, I actually don't have a problem with not updating it. My point is that if you don't update it, eventually it's not going to be as useful as it was.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean, the King James, people actually, if Nichols was still here, he would raise this point. King James is still very useful. It is. But I all the time hear people talk about trying to use it and finding it challenging. And in 1611, and even in the 1700s, it wasn't challenging the way it is for people today. That's my only point. It's not as easy for people to use, and certainly they don't. Oh, and every time I read the King James, as much as I love the beauty of its sound, I always find certain wording.
Yes.
Really odd and almost saying something you don't mean it to say. So Jesus suffered, it says in Hebrews, without the camp.
Right.
Well, I can get it. It's saying outside
the camp, yeah.
But if you said that to someone, Jesus suffered without the camp, that's just not the way we speak, and it's very easily misunderstood, especially by young people.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, speaking of age, Red Headliner says, so they update due to changes in English, especially by the young person, but can't us old geezers now misunderstand? Because to us, awesome still has that awe-inspiring meaning. And that is the challenge. I actually think that is the challenge, is that if you're old enough, you're going to still hear it the way you've always heard it.
So yeah, that makes sense. It's not like your kid's language is going to overtake your use of English, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I love this discussion. Anyway, back to the ESV, Gideon. I think we kind of covered all the main things, but I guess I did have some more notes.
Yeah, the big sort of main takeaway with the ESV is that even though there's a number of Textus Receptus readings in there, they're not consistent with it. So there are a number of places where there is a Textus Receptus reading, but they just don't go with it. And
at least that one, right? Acts 15:34.
Well, there's a number of other ones, like ones that aren't whole verses. So if you go to Matthew 1:25.
Oh, okay. I have a feeling though that they were trying to put in verses that were missing.
That's not true. They've made changes that are not just whole verses.
Okay, I'm not saying that's the only criteria, but I think that would have probably been a bigger criteria, is like, and maybe also well known. I know that sounds very arbitrary, but let's face it, there are passages people are more familiar with, and others they're not as familiar with. So maybe it had to do with that as well.
I could very well
just a theory. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to gauge because it's really inconsistent. So, like John 1:18, for example, only begotten Son versus only begotten God. They went with the critical text reading there. You got 1 Timothy 3:16, he who was manifest in the flesh versus God who was manifest in the flesh. They went with he who was manifest. They went with the critical text reading there. Revelation, Tree of Life, Book of Life. They went with the critical text reading, not the TR reading. Matthew 125, was it Mary's firstborn son? They didn't have firstborn in there, so they went with the critical text reading. But then there are other places where they, like Matthew 17:19, prayer and fasting was included in the Gideon edition. Matthew 17:21 included in there. So, it's like hit or miss. It's all over the place. So it's not really a reliable guide into what the Textus Receptus is, but more or less the editorial decisions made by whoever put the Gideon edition together. There's no.
And I would think if you're a Textus Receptus person and you picked this Bible up, unless because remember the Gideon's Bibles don't use footnotes. The whole point of these Bibles is just to be a text Bible. Mm-hmm. So actually, if you read this Bible, if you're Textus Receptus, most likely you're going to be like, this is fine. There's not going to be anything super noticeable. Because they kind of included all of the well-known things that are obvious, like Acts chapter 8, right? Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure they would have included Acts chapter 8 verses 37 and 38. That's one that people are like, why did they take that out?
Yeah.
And here it says, Philip said, if you believe with all your heart, you may. And he replied, I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. And then he was baptized. Mm-hmm. And so, I think that's what they're basically trying to do, is just have something that is familiar. It's going to line up pretty well with other Gideon Bibles.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think they're still staying true to the translation, the ESV translation.
Yeah. Yeah, because they transitioned.
Go ahead.
I was going to say they transitioned from the King James Version. So it does, excuse me. So it does make sense that they would want to keep the readings from the King James Version into the ESV, like you said, to keep that kind of familiar. So,
yeah. And then Colton brought this one up. You said "awesome" today means really cool, but should we also translate "cool" differently as it appears in the text? Yeah, and that I think is where God is walking in the garden in the cool of the day. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's going to be misunderstood.
We still use cool in the sense of touching something that's kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah. Right? He was just joking too.
Yeah.
He was just joking, but that's funny. And then also, and I hear this a lot. People like their NIV 84s.
Yep.
He says, growing up in the 90s, so it speaks how I naturally speak. Bring back the. You said you were an old geezer. Does that make me an old geezer? I guess.
Yeah.
Growing up in the 90s.
Like, I guess we're all 80s. Yeah, I guess we're all old geezers.
Not me.
except you. You're the little baby face Layman.
Yep.
Aww. So yeah, the NIV 84. Yeah, someone just said I must be ancient. Yeah, tell us if you're willing to. Which translation of the Bible did you start with?
The KJV.
Could be. I was wondering, like, what edition of the NASB were they on when you were born? You know that, or when you were growing up. Yeah, the NIV 84. A lot of people, obviously, it had a very far-reaching influence. That's actually another point I wanted to make about the ESV. Is that the ESV has become incredibly widespread in its popularity. That's why the Gideons, I think, chose the ESV for some of their printings. And I've noticed there are very conservative Christian groups out there that traditionally used even the New King James Version, and they've started using the ESV. So the ESV has really become like a lot like the NIV in its popularity. And that kind of brings me to the subject of Bible sales, which we can get into.
Sure.
But I actually, before we do anything, though, I just want to make sure you know, Pastor Dwayne, that I told you could come on here and talk about this, but I don't expect you to stay. You can leave whenever you want.
But he's also not kicking you out.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah. Definitely.
I'm good for a bit.
Out.
I'm good for a bit.
Yeah. Usually pastors have things to get to. So.
Now, this is kind of my off day, sort of. Yeah. Okay. We have VBS this week, so my Monday was shot. In a good way. In a good way. But,
I got you.
Yeah.
It was busy.
But I'm not preaching this Sunday because we have Teen Challenge coming and doing some ministry. So I don't have to prep a sermon this week, which gives me a little more time for other things.
So no wonder you're feeling so relaxed. Yeah.
So chipper.
So Tony said he started with the Good News Bible, then went for the NIV in 1984, and then the CSB in 2024. That's really interesting there. And then Seeley said the NIV was the first Bible I bought for myself. Whatever edition was immediately before. Yep, so the 1984, that was the predominant edition for many years. Okay. Interesting. And then we have a question from Red Headliner about Crossway allows the Gideon ESV Catholic edition, but in 2021, Crossway denied licensing the ESV to Randall House, citing reluctance in having Arminian notes accompanying the ESV. Whoa.
Yeah, that's brutal. I mean, I understand that people need to stick to their principles. But yeah, I guess if you're to the view where you think your Calvinism is so much that it's like, the gospel, like didn't Spurgeon say that Calvinism is the gospel, something like that. If that's your view, then yeah, I can understand. But of course, I think that this is mistaken and really unfortunate.
That they denied rights to Randall House. What's Randall House?
I don't know who Randall House is. Maybe I'll do like a quick search.
Because it could make a difference as to like what were the specifics of that project. I know they would probably.
Colton must know because he says he supports that Crossway decision.
Randall.
All right, give us the inside info. What was the study Bible or whatever edition that was being requested for licensing?
Yeah, because who knows? Maybe it was like what's
something
the guy's
that
name?
Was a little off.
No,
yeah,
sorry.
like I will say, I'll give a general, idea as to what's going on. Crossway has their own theology and their own statement of faith, I'm sure, and their own mission. And I think that Crossway is certainly trying to be generous, and they want their translation to get out there. But they don't want to do anything that undermines their core beliefs. And I get it. They're not Catholic for sure. But that being said, Crossway is, generally speaking, in the Reformed camp, and the Reformed people tend to see themselves connected to the historic church. And so I can see why they might be a little more predisposed to allowing their translation be used for historic denominations. Whereas when you get into some of these other groups, they might be a little bit more nitpicky, especially if it violates some of their core statement of faith beliefs.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the other thing is ultimately you can't really force them to publish. I mean, as much as I think it's kind of gross that they, Arminianism is their big problem. I mean, there's big problems in the church, and that's not one of the big problems. But part of me wonders if there's something else going on, because that seems like one of those. Because I mean, like, the church as a whole will generally support the works of someone like John Wesley. You might agree with John Wesley on a number of his teachings, but again, solid stuff there. So yeah, I wonder if there's something going on.
It may have been the specifics of that particular Bible that they just weren't comfortable with. Mm-hmm. They're pretty broad though. I mean,
well,
go ahead.
Here's a statement according to a Randall House representative. After petitioning to license the ESV translation, Crossway, the publisher who owns the rights to the ESV, denied us usage. Known to be reformed in theology, they cited a reluctance to allow an Arminian set of notes accompanying their text. Randall House is currently exploring other translations, seeking one suitable for our people and providing the highest quality study helps for our pastors and teachers. So it seems to be over Arminian notes.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a question, and you might know the answer to this, Dwayne. What's the Fire Bible? Because I'm pretty sure the ESV has licensed to the Fire Bible.
That's interesting. So I know Tim Nichols just did a video on the Fire Bible. I don't have one, and I have not read it. But my understanding is that the Fire Bible was like the notes and stuff were produced by those from the AOG, Assemblies of God, which is like a fairly Pentecostal movement. Most of them are going to be Arminian and of that nature. So yeah, that does kind of weirdly seem like a double standard that the ESV Crossway is doing.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was just what's kind of firing in my mind is maybe there's a little bit more to it than just the Arminianism.
Yeah.
Maybe it's some of the other doctrinal things, and I don't know what they are, but the Fire Bible is I definitely see that at one time, at least, the Fire Bible was produced in the ESV.
I mean, the other potential, right?
Here's pictures of it.
I mean, the other thing is maybe the ESV licensed it to the Fire Bible, not knowing, and then saw their notes and was like, "Oh, maybe we should be a little more."
Maybe they got pushed back.
Yeah, maybe.
Or it's a different set of people in charge. That can happen where you have a transition of people who are vetting these projects.
Yeah,
I don't know. Will we ever see a ESV? Here's a question. Will we ever see a LSB Spirit-filled Bible?
Nope.
I doubt it. John MacArthur was so anti like continuationist. It's not even funny.
I know. I actually think that would be a great April Fool's, like to do a computer generated picture of a LSB Spirit-filled Bible. And be like, hey, guess what they're coming out with?
The Joel Osteen Study Bible in LSB. Yeah, it's not like that. Yeah. Or the what's the other? The Bill Johnson? Not Bill. Is it Bill Johnson? The Bill Johnson Study Bible.
Yeah. There's no other statements apart from that one I read you. The only other thing I can find, and it doesn't say it's from a representative or anything. It just says that. Cited irreconcilable theological differences.
Yeah, what's FWB?
That's
Randall
what I was
House FWB. I'm trying to think.
Free Will Baptist.
Free Will Baptist.
Thank you.
Okay.
See, if you're young enough, you know how to read acronyms.
There we go. Apparently, I'm not.
I grew up without texting, so my brain still gets so confused by all those.
That's funny.
Free Will Baptist.
But like,
it's probably. It's probably there's a difference between being like Arminian light and being like hardcore Arminian, where you're like really pushing hard on that. Maybe that's, if it's free will is in the title, that might have been
that could very well be, right?
Well, again, this is not anything concrete here, but from what I'm seeing in the thread here, people are saying that in the notes, there was active pushback against Reformed theology, so that probably has to do with it.
But like, how else do you like commentate on some of these issues without giving some sort of argument against the other side? I mean, that seems a little bit.
Well, again, that's not official, but the only thing I could guess is that whenever ESV licensed to Fire Bible, maybe they just decided to make their own points and not really reference Reformed theology. As where apparently this crowd were going to be making active like rebuttals. So ESV were like, nope.
Yeah, interesting.
Hey, look what this Frisch guy is saying. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on this. I go to a Reformed leaning church, so I'm not too bothered by Reformed theology, but I do hate being labeled an Arminian simply because I'm not a Calvinist.
That sounds like something an Arminian would say.
Are you labeling him? He just said he didn't want to be labeled.
This may surprise people.
Alan, do you use the ESV?
Because that'll definitely peg him in. But this may surprise people, but there is more to theology than Calvinist and Arminianist.
I know, it's wild, isn't it?
I know, shocking.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. No.
Do you think the apostles were trying to decide whether to be Arminian or Calvinistic?
I think that the apostles were probably Arminian. They read Jacobus Arminius and just were like, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, they you're saying they probably didn't agree with Calvin then?
Definitely not. They read his works and they were like, this is definitely not it.
Yeah, just so everyone understands, these are anachronistic jokes. Yes. What we're joking about is that the Arminianism and Calvinism is only an argument you could have post-Reformation when Calvin and Arminius were debating these things.
Well, it's one of those things like when you talk about Arminianism and Calvinism, people will often be like, okay, you know what? All the early church, they believed this. But what's really funny is when you say like the early church believed this, the reality is there's not really a centralized theology in the early church. And what you find is that the early church is generally like all over the place on these issues.
They're like us three, right?
Yeah, that's right. Like they didn't have this stuff settled. And you know, when we start talking about the question of free will or not, I mean, this is something that's been debated in the church since the church started. So it's not like anything new. And so the real question that you got to ask, right? Of course, you're going to do some digging and come to a position, or maybe not, right? But the real question you got to ask is like, what is it that God's trying to show us in this? Like, what is it that I'm supposed to learn? What am I digging out? Like, what is the Lord showing us in this theological disagreement? Because guaranteed that what you're seeing in that disagreement, like what you're learning about yourself and how you relate to God and how you relate to Christ in that disagreement, is going to be much more valuable to you than the arguing that you're going to be doing between, you know, pick a theological position. Now, don't get me wrong, doesn't mean theology is not important. Absolutely is. And there's some theologies that are like right out there, right? We reserve the right to say that's crazy, that's heresy, go away. But, you know, there are other things that, you know, we can use it to sharpen one another. And I think that this question between Arminianism and Calvinism should be used to sharpen one another as opposed to beat each other over the head with it. So, of course, you might believe that I was predestined to say that or not. You know,
you were, but no. But I think that you're right. You know, that's ideally like the parameters we should operate in would be that we sharpen each other. The challenge is people will go so far. I mean, even Calvinists will say there is such a thing as hyper-Calvinism. Sure. There is such a thing as going off the deep end with that side of things. And I would imagine, you know, you would probably say, Dwayne, there is such a thing as hyper-Arminianism.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah, like this whole idea, like having to get saved every Sunday, that's just wild to me.
Exactly. So that's where, you know, we should hopefully be biblical enough that we're sharpening each other, but also clear enough that we're both able to identify things that are just out of bounds.
Yeah.
By the way, Alan says he brings a CSB to church. All right.
There you go. There you go.
What do you know? A Frisch using a CSV. Can you believe that?
That, if I remember correctly, that's your favorite translation, right, Tim?
It's one of the top two.
Yeah,
the New King James and the CSB.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
I think the New King James is awesome, by the way.
It's the best. I love it. All right.
And then what did
the Bible format war that we're having? We're currently down. Single column is at 48%. So we need somebody to boost that up a little bit. So put in your single column vote.
Hey, are you trying to rig the election?
Yeah, I'm gonna log in with all my other YouTube alt accounts and vote it up.
You're lobbying is what you're doing.
That's right. I'm
Come
lobbying.
on, guys, come on.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm encouraging.
How did the Canadian? I've watched Canadian politics. They have a really funny, like, interesting way of they like do these rallying speeches, and then everybody cheers on their side. You should do that. Well, I guess that's what you just did.
That's what I just did.
did.
The only thing is our audience is a little bit quieter because it's all in the comments, so we don't get to hear the yay.
Unless we bring them up some stage.
That's true.
Yes, Colton, you did catch that.
I did not catch that at all.
That was an intended pun. Yes.
Man, I'm slow.
Maybe double column. Maybe a double column was predestined. We'll find out. We'll find out. I love seeing people's thoughts on all these things. Tony takes 40 translations to church. Yeah, and you're on your phone, I assume. I mean, if you're doing it with physical Bibles,
Tablet.
Yeah, tablet. But yeah, he has it on his tablet. Yeah.
Was Origen's Hexapla? In the early church, he created this Bible translation, or this Bible with was it 6 different translations? Crazy. Could you imagine lugging that around? That'd be huge.
I'd rather not.
Yeah.
What's the biggest Bible each of you own? Like, if you had to bring the biggest Bible you own to church, what would that be?
It'd be the Eagle.
Okay. The Eagle is a Cambridge wide margin.
Yeah.
And mine is this.
I can't
ESV
see actually.
6-column reader.
6
Nice.
Hey!
6 volume.
Oh, I thought you said 6 column.
No, 6 volume.
Oh, I was going to say, we could add that to the
We'd have to put that in the poll.
Mm.
So actually, coming back to the ESV, Crossway created this Bible that's like the Panorama Bible. It's like 3 feet by like 1.5 feet. And so like when you open it up, the entire book is like on one page. Or something like that. Absolutely nice. Humongous, like huge. How's that for a huge? You just go like with like one of these into the church, right?
I have one of their coffee table Bibles. It's beautiful.
Oh, nice.
People are, I think, giving their biggest Bibles. You got the ESV study. Get the large print. Then you'll have an even larger ESV Bible to carry. That's a big one. NIV journaling. Cool. Oops. I have bought one of those classic 4 translations, parallel, but my main one is the old NIV 84. You should bring the 4 version to church. That would be fun if we did a challenge where this church, bring your largest Bible to church Sunday.
That'd be fun.
Hey, let me show you a big one that I have on my shelf.
Right. This is now where the shelf falls down on them.
No, actually, one reason I want to show you this is really pertinent to our discussions about Bibles and translations and updates. I think I've talked about this quite a bit, but
oh, nice,
the Webster Bible.
Very nice.
A pastor sent this to me, and I reviewed it. It's like the New King James of the 1800s.
It's true, yeah.
For real, it really is. So cool. And Noah Webster did this. So even in the 1800s, there were people saying there should be Bible updates of the King James.
So now are we moving into questions that you wanted to ask Dwayne earlier?
Did I thought it was when we were on the topic of Arminianism. When
you started grilling him on some of his beliefs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Now I can't remember. Oh no, I don't know. We've covered so many other topics.
I've made it out alive. From
you were talking about
people.
Arminianism, right? Earlier,
we were talking about once saved, always saved.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. The fact that I suggested that you could forfeit your salvation.
Oh yeah, that was it. Thank you. Yeah. Whoa, great memory. Yeah, my question with that, or at least one that comes to my mind now, is how do you look at the doctrine of adoption, for example. Like, I feel like if you think that someone forfeits their salvation in the sense that they abandon the faith, and then they're not saved and they're condemned, actually, you and I would probably have similar, experiential perspectives.
Sure.
But the problem I have with is when people make it sound like you can go back and forth. That makes no sense to me. How could you be adopted, not adopted, adopted, not adopted? Like, which is it? Are you adopted or not? So to me, like, I have a hard time understanding how do you view those categories that are biblical from an Arminian, from I guess you would call it Arminian. I mean, Arminius, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, Layman. Arminius wasn't actually that extreme, was he?
No.
He was not far off of John Calvin. He only disagreed on a few, not even necessarily disagreements. He just articulated things in a different way from Calvin. But what happened was Arminius' followers later on started going further and further away from the Reformed viewpoint, and then that's what created that sort of rejection, and then that's why Calvinists came back with Tulip to rebut the idea of that. But yeah, no, there wasn't a huge difference between them, to be honest.
No.
Right. And anyway, go ahead and give your thoughts there, Dwayne.
Yeah. So when it comes to like those ideas, like such as adoption and some of this language you find, and the really popular passages, like, nobody will pluck you out of his hand and things of that nature. And I think it's certainly good to look at those, and it's not like as an Arminian, we don't have any security as far as being a believer. We totally do, right? You go into Romans 8 and, what is it? His spirit bears record with our spirit that we are children of God. Like we have that. We have that. But what we do is we don't just stop there. Is when you go into a book like Hebrews, for example, Hebrews is like, I don't know how you can get around this. Hebrews is essentially a warning to the church to say, hey, don't leave the faith. Don't go away from it. You have all these promises and inheritance if you remain in the faith. So as an Arminian, we believe that, and I say as an Arminian, I mean, I don't know if I'm fully Arminian, but we believe that remaining in the faith, that's kind of the key to being a Christian. Is like once you step out of the faith, you're no longer. And this isn't just like, one day I had a bad day and I punched Buddy in the face because he was annoying me. Like that, I'm not talking. I don't think that's talking about that. But this is like a wholesale forsaking of somebody literally saying, God, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. I'm out of here. So we know people who struggle, but remain in faith, and versus people who struggle and then just leave the faith altogether.
Yep.
Now, where the real distinction lies is when we come to them after the fact, right? You two would probably say, well, he was never saved to begin with. Nope. No, really? Okay, interesting. Okay, we'll hold that thought.
Not to interrupt you, I was just going to say, just so you know, I believe you can apostatize.
I didn't know that. Okay, that's like a very Lutheran thing too. The Lutheran Church believes in apostasy.
I'll let you finish your part on that.
But then maybe for you, Tim, you would say, well, they weren't really saved to begin with. But then
I'm curious what Layman's going to say. I'll tell you how I would articulate.
Yeah, and then I would say, well, he may have been saved. And he lost his salvation, I don't like using lost, but the language is so ingrained. But he literally walked away. He forfeited. He decided to leave. Of course, decided is a trigger word. So we'll just leave it at that. But I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is all three of us would look at the current state of that individual, and pastorally, we would be like, man, I am concerned for your soul.
Right.
And I don't think any of us wouldn't be. And that's where the rubber meets the road. There's almost a distinction without a difference. Usually the discussion surrounds...
there's potentially thorny things on both sides of this. And one is if you're under that category of eternal security, if you want to call it that, then you could have a situation where, well, it doesn't matter whether I continue because I'm eternally secure. It doesn't matter if I continue in the faith. But I think a biblical, healthy understanding says, yeah, it does matter if you continue. Actually, it does matter. On the other hand, on the Arminian, if you're going to call it that side of things, you have people that literally do worry that they've lost their salvation. They really do, because they've messed up, because they've struggled with sin, and then they're worried, and they are trying to find a sense of security. And I would argue sometimes certain theology, I don't even know if I would call it Arminian, but certain theologies lend toward that, looking to yourself. And I would say we've got to get people to look to Christ,
right?
And put their confidence in what He provides.
Yeah, and just gonna add to
go
that.
ahead.
I remember when I was like a first believer, and I hadn't really fully read through the New Testament or anything, and I came across the passage that talks about how if you grieve the Holy Spirit, then there's no forgiveness for you in this age or in the age to come. And I remember racking my brain for months, just wondering and hoping, and I didn't really have any peace or anything with that. I was like, oh my goodness, am I going to hell? I remember this time I did this and I said this, like, what's going on here? And it took a little while to realize. So yeah, I mean, there is the both sides of the coin there. Sorry, I know I'm going over here on
No,
the Layman. Yeah.
Yeah, we want to hear Layman's perspective
Apostasy
on apostasy. Yeah.
Well, I need to make this clear. It's not, while I hold to it, it's not my view. This is the common misunderstanding that people have with Presbyterians or those who hold to Reformed theology in general.
Yep.
If you read the Reformed divines, they all believe that you can indeed apostatize. They have such a strong doctrine of perseverance of the saints that people accuse them of just believing, once saved, always saved. But Calvin, for example, believed that certain people had a thing called effervescent grace. So they would believe for a time, but would eventually fall away. It's not real grace. It's not true grace. Now, someone might hear that and say, oh, well, then that is essentially saying, oh, that person was never saved. No, they partook of the spiritual gifts. They partook of the Holy Spirit. We would also believe that a real, genuine believer has to keep in the faith, because it is possible that they could recant under pressure, like persecution, death, whatever it is, the face of death. So we believe, no, the warning passages are real. We just have a strong enough doctrine of the perseverance of the saints, because God preserves us, that we also feel secure. But that sometimes gets translated into a very condensed form. Oh, we don't believe you can lose your salvation at all. And again, Tony said it. I don't like the term lose your salvation. It's not like your keys. It's not like, you wake up one day and, I'm not saved. If you're going to apostatize, it's a very final thing. And those people, because I've even had conversations with a lot of young men who, Dwayne, exactly what you said, worrying about, have I blasphemed the Holy Spirit? If you're worrying about it, you have not done it. Trust me, because the people that blaspheme the Holy Spirit are people who have got to a stage where that's it. They don't want God. God's gone for them. They're in a final place of just straight out, shipwreck.
Yeah. So what Layman said, there's much more how I would view it and articulate it, because I do think people from our perspective, they're like the soil, and I think someone mentioned the soil. The soil could look like it's bearing fruit for a time, but ultimately, for various reasons, may not continue.
That's right.
Whereas the good soil continues to bear fruit and ends up being genuine.
Yep.
And but that word genuine, I think, is only God's prerogative really knows that. Yep. And I'm not trying to be like, I don't know. I'm not trying to be abrasive about this, but I genuinely curious, Dwayne.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to know about that adoption thing. Like, I want to know, how do you think about adoption when it comes to our relationship with the Lord? Can you be unadopted?
Yeah. I don't know if unadopted is the right phrase.
But could you say someone was truly adopted by God and then end up condemned?
You would have to. I mean, like, if I were consistent, that has to be a thing that can happen. And so, like, I can give you an example, like in real life, how adoption works. All right, we've adopted kids. Is we can adopt our children, we can bring them in, we can raise them up, we can teach them, we can have them live with us. But as they grow, if they decided to leave, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'd still consider them my adopted children, but I would be really sad and really upset the fact that they left and they're no longer
They would
under the
no
protect.
longer. They would no longer be your children.
Well,
I
they're
mean, like
no
they.
they're no
Excuse me.
longer
They
under
would
the
still always be your children, though. I
Oh
guess
yeah,
that's
yeah,
where I'm
sure,
struggling.
but right, the rejection comes from the other side. I would take them in a heartbeat, but they're no
I just
longer
don't.
under
I
the
don't.
protection
I'm
of my
talking for
house.
myself. I have
Yeah.
a hard time with the category
Yeah.
of someone being condemned by God who is a child of God.
Yeah, and
Right,
I
but-
think like that's justifiable. Like it is a hard thing to understand because it's an awful thing to understand. The fact that somebody could know the true love of God and understand and be there and then to reject that. Yeah, that is an awful thing. Like that's a mind-boggling thing. And
Okay, so as many as believed in him, he gave the right to become the children
children
of God.
God.
So
Yeah.
what I'm kind of getting out of this, and it seems like both of you agree, and I actually don't agree,
Yeah.
that you have some people that were never children who are condemned, and
Mm-hmm.
you have some people who were children who are condemned.
Yeah, if you go into Hebrews, is it 6 or 10? I mean, that's a really crazy warning. That's an
Yeah, but
intense
it's not
warning.
talking about sonship there. It doesn't ever say you
Well,
are
no,
sons.
Well, it's
But-
and this is the thing is like all analogies break down eventually.
Okay,
like if you
so
go
the
into Hebrews-
sonship is to you more. It's. I feel like that's such a graphic analogy. I have a hard time reconciling that
Well-
with any type of concept of like how you would combine that with the idea of God's condemnation. Again, because John says, as many as believed in him, he gave the right to become the children of God. So that means there are a subset of people who become the children of God. And then I'm hearing you guys say, and within that, there's a subset who stop being the children of God, or who are condemned eternally as children of God.
Well, let me rephrase it, because we think of adoption in a very modern sense, where today we adopt kids, we love them, we adore them. Adoption in the ancient Near East, I'm not saying there was no love involved, but what adoption in the ancient Near East was often bringing someone under your legal right, under like a status, right? Someone had the right to break that status. If I was adopted by, say, one of you guys, I have the legal right later on to break that adoption status. Now, even that verse that says that those who believed he gave the right to be called sons and daughters of God. Well, what happens if you no longer believe? Is God revoking that right, or are you revoking that right?
You're right,
saying,
John. But
I don't
here's the
want that
thing:
anymore.
in John's theology, it's very spelled out. But you're right. He uses overlapping terms. There are times where he uses the term believe, and he does actually mean it in a way that's more surface. But there, when he's talking about belief, it's clear that it's people who are born from above. And for John to be born from above is categorical. Like how could someone be born from above and then no longer be born from above?
Yeah, so this is where we start getting into the weeds of the and this really is a Calvinistic question. We start talking about regeneration preceding faith. Now, I don't think that's the case. And so when we start talking about being born from above or being born again, depending on how you see the word there, in my view, we're talking about something that happens after you believe. So the very fact that you are in a place where you are born from above, that's an analogy that Jesus uses in his discussion with Nicodemus to speak about those who have put their faith and trust in God, in Christ, down the road, because it's a little bit, but the point being made there is that your status of born from above is based on, and you're probably disagreeing here, but your status of being born from above rests upon a status of faith, and not the other way around. So that's the whole like regeneration precedes faith discussion.
But all I'm saying, I get that, but I still think there are many people who think that faith precedes regeneration who would still make the exact same point I'm making. That once you're born from above, that's a supernatural work that's talking about a new life. The other thing the Bible talks about is you're brought from death to life. And again, I just have a hard time understanding how you can go back and forth with these things. I agree, though. Like, I think where we all overlap is I think people can have faith and believe. The Bible has that category. And then they can walk away, and they can be, I think they can face God's judgment. I would say, though, they were not a child of God. I have a hard time saying from God's perspective that person was actually his child. And Colton seems to agree with me on this too. The adopted are never cast off in his view. But I know not everybody agrees with us.
It's not that we wouldn't agree, but I love Colton, but I would say that that's worded in a very specific way. The adopted are never cast off suggests God will never cast you off, which he promises. But what that's not addressing is, can you renounce God? Can you blaspheme God? So I would ask the question, Tim, in your view, could a Christian ever blaspheme God and say, God, I want nothing more to do with you?
And this is why I always emphasize our perspective versus God's.
Yeah.
A Christian, and that's where we all agree. Yeah, people we see, just like the soils, we can't tell at first, what the real thing is. You have to wait and see. God knows what is genuine, though. From God's perspective, I don't think he ever says, oh, that person was really saved and was my child, and now they're not. That's the thing
Now you get into the whole like unconditional election, right? Because if God chooses someone before the foundation of the world.
But again, there are many people who don't believe in unconditional election who still would hold to a very similar view of what I'm saying.
Right.
So I hear what you say there, Tim. But let me ask you this question. Would there be any sense in which we here would call them Christians who apostatized?
Yes. Yeah.
So could there be a sense in which you said someone, quote unquote, lost their salvation or they apostatized?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then we don't agree as much as you, or sorry, we don't disagree as much as you think.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to, I was trying to understand
around how it works.
I think the reason I'm so insistent on saying people don't forfeit their salvation in the sense of God is not saying you were in and now you're out. Like that's where I think that's a human perspective thing. I don't think it's a God perspective thing.
Well, yeah. And look, this debate's been raging on for centuries. It'll rage on until the Lord returns.
No, I know we weren't going to solve it. I really wanted to hear how people would answer it.
I know, but part of the reason why I want to go in a little bit just before we end up closing, because I don't know what time you're planning closing out on. Part of the reason why whenever we talk about adoptionism, though, but we have to realize that even within that, you saying that you are adopted by God means that you have been adopted, you have been grafted into his family. Can you spur that, like completely throw that off? I think scripture is clear that you can. You can refuse God, you can refuse his grace.
Yeah. And I think the warning passages are meant to be warning. Yeah. But I have a feeling someone like John Bunyan would probably ultimately, I think, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I've read The Pilgrim's Progress. I think, yes, there's a sense in which you see that dynamic of like perseverance and all of that. But there's also a categorical sense that he seems to understand there, like that a person truly is saved. And that's all I'm saying. I feel like with some people, and it gets back to what I said. I guess I'm always, I understand there's a danger of being presumptuous. I agree with that. But there's an equal danger of, am I really saved? How do I know? Am I really, and I think we have to have something that helps people be reminded that this is God holding you. This is God preserving you. This is God, not
100.
you.
100%. That's why I say like the Reformed position is we have a very strong doctrine of preservation of the saints, because the flip side of that is the OSAS crowd. I can sin like a rebel every day of my life. I have my ticket punched. There's errors on both sides. That's why we have to be, here's three of us. We some of us agree on some points, disagree on the other, but this is how Christian unity does actually work. We may not agree on every point, but every single one of us, even including people in the comments, are trying to argue for God's glory here and say, well, look, this is how it works. Everyone here is trying to speak from our own perspective and also a divine perspective, which in a certain sense we just have to step back and go,
right, exactly, right.
Yep.
Yeah. And I do think, I think everybody can tell we're disagreeing in a brotherly way.
Yeah, of course.
We're just little ants trying to figure out the vastness of God's universe, like who is man, right?
Yeah.
Our minds can't comprehend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got a thought from Tony here. From our perspective, salvation is free will. From God's perspective, outside of time, salvation is predetermined. I tend to look at it similar to that. I know, some people would not use the same terminology, but I get what he's saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say I'm going to be that really annoying person and say we don't have free will, we have creaturely will.
But again, he's more speaking in terms of like.
I'm not meaning Tony. I just mean in
I
general.
know.
I have a very.
I can see why. I can see the pushback. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. But I totally get what you're saying, Tony, because we make real choices. Yeah. Then we've got Colton said, unrepentant professing Christians should be warned. Repentant Christians should be comforted. Amen. I would say there's truth in that. And then
he's back.
I believe there's a connection between sola fide and security. Losing salvation sounds too much like salvation from works. Would you agree? I'll let you guys.
Yeah. So from my perspective, I see a distinction between works of the law and works generally. So when Paul is talking about faith and works, he always juxtaposes faith and works of the law. Like I'm preaching through Romans 7 right now, and Romans 7 is all about the flesh and trying to obey the law through the flesh, right? And we often see the flesh as this like sinful thing, and of course you can't please God, and there's works of the flesh. But one of the things that we do in the flesh is we try to obey the commands of God. And Paul is saying, no, you can't do it because your flesh can't do that. Right? But he juxtaposes that works-based mentality with a mentality based on faith. So when you say losing salvation sounds too much like salvation from works, we're on a faith-based system, right? And then the real thing to wrestle with is whether or not faith is itself a work, which in Pauline discourse, it's not, right? Because although faith is something you do, right? You have faith in something. It's something you do. It's not a work of the law. So I hope you found that kind of helpful.
And I would say for some people that don't really understand sola fide, yeah, I think there is a connection. But ultimately, I would not agree because my trust in Christ is based solely upon Christ, and it's not based upon me worrying about whether I'm doing good works or not doing good works.
Yep.
So you're saying you don't agree with?
I think there is a group of people even within Reformdom that would believe that there is indeed a connection between sola fide and them feeling secure. But I'm saying overall, I disagree that there's a connection there. I don't agree with Philip's assessment there.
It seemed to be true for Luther, though. It seemed to be true for him. Yeah.
Depends which Luther you read.
There you go.
Well, the one that talked about his conversion.
Yeah, but I mean, there's certain stages of Luther's faith as he went on in his life.
There's early Luther and later Luther.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, though, that I think that gets to the heart of what his experience was in terms of the subject of sola fide in relation to salvation. He was very insecure. And then, like, he was like, okay, I see what Romans is saying now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
he's clear on that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tony is saying in the comments there, I'm not going to expound on it too much just because we'd be here all day. But this is the work of God, that you believe in him whom he sent. There is tremendous debate surrounding what that "of" means, right? In technical speak, is that the subjective genitive or is that the objective genitive? And this is a problem that we see all over the New Testament. Like those two very things are often, there's some uncertainty into which way. So are you talking about this is the work of God, as in it's a work that God does? Or is this a work of God that he commands us? Right? So it's a very important distinction, but both fit the grammatical structure there.
Well, and there's also something else that I think plays into this, and I'm going to bring it up here because it shows you how biblical terminology. Oh man, I did that thing again where I pressed the wrong button. There we go. So I'm looking at John 3:36. It says, "He who believes in the Son has everlasting life." It sounds like a mental thing. But then when you actually look at the contrast, he who does not believe in this, and that's not actually the one I was looking at. Maybe it's a little earlier.
You talking about where he who does not obey?
Yeah. Yes. Where is that?
I don't know off the top of my head. I can't remember. Someone in the comments, I'm sure, will get it.
I can't believe I got the wrong reference. I mean, I know it's in this chapter. Oh, it's probably here. For everyone, I'll just have to look up. I'll look up the phrase. It was 3:36.
John 3:36. Yeah.
That's what I was reading.
Are you in 1 John?
No. And it's the New King James. Maybe that's what it is. This is a textual variation.
Wait. Go down again. I think you were in chapter 2.
No, it must be a textual. Is it a textual thing? Because I went to the ESV and it is. Because I was in the New King James. Yeah. So is it a textual thing?
Oh, interesting.
Now I got to look that up. But what I was going to say is, I mean, at least, when you're looking at this in the ESV, whoever believes in the Son has eternal life. That sounds very intellectual. But he who does not obey the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God remains on him. I mean, you have belief being equated with obedience, which is, I think, not something that a lot of Americans tend to put together.
Yeah.
But you know what? That could be a textual variant. I'm looking it up in the New King James. Or it could just be how the word is translated. Yeah, I don't see a textual variant there. So,
because I'm looking at the King James here as well.
And what does that say? Does that say believe?
Let me read. He who believes in the Son has everlasting life, and he who does not believe the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God abides on him.
All right, now we need to go to the Greek.
Whoever does not obey, hypotasso.
Yeah. There is a footnote, actually. No, it just says "or believe." Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So you see here, this is the which shows you like there's a semantic range for this word that doesn't make belief just purely intellectual.
Yeah. Well, I mean, James is a really good.
Does not obey apitheo. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, James is a really good example of providing us that faith requires a little bit more than just simple mental assent. When he says that even the devils believe and tremble. So it's I like that passage because even the devils, when they believe, right, they have this outward manifestation that they tremble, right? Like their faith actually causes them to tremble. So if you take what James is saying there, your faith actually requires more than just simply trembling. There's more to it than just knowing and trembling.
Yeah. Like the reformers often broke it down into 3 parts. Like they had that. So first is knowledge. You just simply understand the facts. Then there was step 2, which was something they called a census, which was assent. You mentally agree to the facts are true. But they described true biblical faith as fiducia, trust, the act of relying and surrendering your will to the one that you're believing on. So whenever we read believe in scripture, we have to be very careful to try and break down, well, what type of belief has been talked about.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, because it really, the context really sheds light. Here's another one, John 8:31. Jesus said to the Jews who had believed in him, "If you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." They answered him, "We are the offspring of Abraham and have never been enslaved to anyone. How is it that you say you will become free?" It's so interesting that John here is on one hand talking about people who believe in him, but Jesus is almost kind of challenging them here. You have to continue. And then they're not really too keen on what he's saying. So, it's a pretty nuanced way that John talks about these things.
It is, and I'm not trying to drag us back into this because I know we're closing out, but that's why whenever you go to the parable of the vine, we were talking about how can someone be in God and then not in God. Well, when you look at the parable of the vine, these were branches that were in the vine. There's no getting around that, and then they're plucked off and they're cast into
There's
the
life
fire.
there. Yeah, that's a good point. There is life. Yeah, I still think that some of the language in the Bible speaks more to our perspective, and some speaks more to God's perspective. And I tend to lean toward familial language as speaking how God, that to me is more categorical, permanent. But I get it. Yeah, that's true what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. That's what I say. Like these things have been debated for centuries.
You're right.
I think as long as we are trying to, I don't think we're going to stand before the Lord one day and he's going to give us a theology quiz. It's just,
Well, in the words of Paul, we will know as we are known, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we all see through a mirror darkly.
And again, Orthodox Philip is going to be on the channel pretty soon, I think. We'll be talking about a certain Bible translation that New Rome Press has come out with. Mm-hmm. He says, "For the record, I don't hold sola fide. I'm just trying to understand the different perspectives from you all."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the thing, even within our, because we're all kind of considered, well, we're not exactly the same for sure. But we're still, all of us are more in that part of Christianity that's, broadly speaking, an outflow of Protestantism. Now, Layman is actually, I think, what you would call a true Protestant. But still, we have some variances in our perspectives.
That's the thing. Sometimes people hear me, and by the way, I don't run around calling myself a true Protestant, but whenever I distinguish between Protestant and evangelical, I think some people think I'm doing it to be snobby or whatever. No, I'm just really trying to separate, because there is distinctives in the theology, and it just makes things easier to talk about if we would all say, hey, I'm in this branch, I'm in that branch. That's it.
Well, don't put labels on me, Layman.
What about YouTuber?
That's funny.
Your video looks frozen to me.
Oh,
is that on your end too?
That looks to be on my end.
Yeah.
But you can still hear me.
Or you are really good at ventriloquism.
That's funny.
That's because I put a label on them.
Yeah, that's exactly it. My camera didn't like it.
All right. Well, funny. I'm just going to have you up as a icon right now.
An icon?
I shouldn't have said that. I know, I should not have said that.
There you go, Philip. You found your first Protestant with an icon.
And of all things, it's the Pentecostal who's the icon. Saint Dwayne.
Oh no, we've lost him.
Yeah, now I can't hear you either.
It says he's offline.
Oh,
Dwayne,
but I see.
I know we're going off, but jump in and out, Dwayne, just so we can get a goodbye from you.
I know. I hate to leave him if we're disconnected. Anyway, thanks everybody for hanging in with us today.
Hopefully I'll be back.
Yeah, that was not intentional. I wasn't making any kind of religious reference when I said icon.
Well, this will be clipped now on Philip's channel, Protestants.
I really should. Yeah, You know what? Maybe we could just have Philip's icon when he comes on. You know.
We'll give
I
it a
don't
wee
think we're
minute here to
getting.
see.
I don't think we're getting
Well,
past.
no, he's hopped out. Let's see if he comes back in.
Just so we can say goodbye to him.
Well, yeah.
As soon as he comes in, bye.
Yeah, well, like the audience, he can give an outro and stuff as to where people can find him and.
Yeah, maybe
Okay,
while
back,
he's
but he says no.
Yeah. Oh. Let me
Well,
pull his channel back
yeah,
up
do
because I
that
feel
while
like
he's trying to come back.
I feel like people should get a plug for his channel here. So let me do that. And what you'll notice, everyone, is that the first video that's up here is the topic that we were talking about today. But it's an hour-and-a-half live stream where he does like a deep dive into it. So if you have not subscribed to his channel, he covers all kinds of topics related to textual criticism. And he
Very
really
good
is
channel.
a strong very informative and a strong advocate for the Byzantine priority of the New Testament textual basis. So you'll learn all about that, and you'll probably walk away really wanting to use the New King James a lot.
Well, good job we're plugging him because I don't think he can get back. He said he's probably not going to be able to get on.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that.
But it was a good chat.
It was a great chat, and I apologize. Tony's telling him to persevere, Dwayne. Oh, man. Yeah. Perseverance of the podcasters.
Yep.
Oh.
Apart from this time,
anything you want to plug before we go, Layman?
No, I'm still very much on a break. There's still videos going out in the channel, but they have all been recorded in advance, and the editor's doing his thing. So I'm pretty much chilling, and yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you for chilling with us, and you did some research for us too today while we were talking, which was really helpful.
Well,
and
yeah, that's what
you
I
got
like
a chance to talk about Protestant theology.
Well, yeah, what I like though about it is when there's guests on and they're knowledgeable about their particular faith, because like what did I just say? Field, my brain. So while they're talking about their stuff, like if a question does come up, having a second co-host gives you the opportunity to go away and do some research as people are talking. So
exactly.
I like that side of things as well.
I like it too.
But audience, thank you very much as well. So we appreciate all the conversation you guys were having while we were chatting and bantering back and forth. So.
And we'll be back next week. We might have someone else with us on. Nothing in stone yet, but again, Orthodox Philip, he's going to be coming up. And Tim Nichols is already talking about coming back on in August to talk more about the spiritual realm.
Yeah, let's actually get planned for that because I would like to do a good bit of, not necessarily research, but I'd like to be prepared for it.
Sounds good. All right. We'll see you all hopefully next week.
God bless.